Hello and welcome to this new video, and in this video we are just going to advance from where we ended. So in the previous video that I uploaded on the group, we were looking at the latitudes and longitudes. So now we defined the latitudes, we defined the longitudes, and we looked at how the relationship between the latitudes and longitudes is. And we figured out that the latitudes and longitudes are able to help us identify or state or allocate points or towns on the Earth's surface. Now in this one, we are going to focus on the differences in latitudes and longitudes. So how do we get the differences? So to calculate the differences between latitudes, you have to take note of a few things. The first one is, if you're calculating the difference between two latitudes, take a look at their directions in where they're heading in. So if the two latitudes you are calculating are heading in the same direction, you basically have to subtract them for you to get the difference. And if they're heading in opposite directions, you basically only have to add, okay? You only need to add them for you to get the difference. Let's look at this diagram here. What I've drawn here is lines of latitudes. You can see this line here is 0 degrees, meaning that is our equator. I know these are latitudes because I can see that they are running from the west to the east, and they are heading towards north and south. Now, that being said, the question is asking us to find the difference in latitudes between points A, B, C, D, E, F, and we have been told to find, the first one is the difference between the points A and B, the difference between C and E, the difference between D and F, and the difference between A and F. So I'll start with question 1. Question 1 is saying, find the difference in latitudes between points A and B. So we have to identify where A is and where B is in respect of on which latitudes are they lying on. So you can see that A is lying on latitude 45 degrees north, and you can see that B is lying on 30 degrees north. So how do we get the difference? It's a simple process. Remember, we said that if we are calculating latitudes, the difference in latitudes, and we discover that they're heading in the same direction, then we only need to subtract them to find the difference. So that's what we are going to do. Identify the direction, the two latitudes where point A and B, you've been asked, are heading in what direction. So we can see that the latitudes where B and A are lying on, they are heading in the north. All of them are heading in the same direction. That simply means that we're going to say A is lying on 45 degrees north and B is lying on 30 degrees north. I hope I got that right. Yes. So for us to get the difference between A and B, we are going to subtract this. So that minus, we are going to get a 15 degrees. So 45 minus 30, we are going to find 15 degrees. That is the difference in latitude between the points A and B. Let's look at question 2. Question 2 is asking us to find, question 2 is asking us to find the difference in latitude between point C and E. So let's say identify point C and point E. Okay, so where is point C? Point C is right here and it's lying on 15 degrees north. And E is right here and it's lying on 30 degrees north. Sorry, 30 degrees south. Good. Now, we have seen that where C and E are lying on in respect to the latitudes, they are heading in opposite directions. Where C is lying, it's heading in the north, and where E is lying is heading on the south. So we can take note to say C is lying on, what's that, 15 degrees? 15 degrees north. And E is lying on 30 degrees east. So when you have two latitudes heading in opposite directions, we simply ignore the directions that we have described, and then we basically just have to add the degrees. So that is going to give us 45 degrees. So the difference between C and E in latitude is 45 degrees. Okay, let's go to the next question. Just rub that. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's now look at question 3. Question 3 is basically asking us to calculate the difference in latitude between point D, which is here, and D is lying on 15 degrees south, and F is right here, which is at 45 degrees south. Okay, so we can see that they are all heading in the same direction, 45 degrees south, 15 degrees south, meaning that we are going to simply say 45 degrees south minus D is on 15 degrees minus 15 degrees. So that is going to give us 30 degrees. That will be the difference. Let's look at the last question. The last question is asking us to find the difference in latitude between point A and F. Point A is right here at 45 degrees north, and point F is right here at 45 degrees south. So how do we calculate this? First thing is identify the directions they're heading in. So you can see A is heading north and F is heading south, meaning that we need to add the degrees. Therefore, we can simply say 45 degrees, 45 degrees, that is for point A, and 45 degrees, that is for point F. So when I add this, we're basically going to get a 90 degrees. That is the difference in latitudes. All right, let's now forge ahead and see if we can answer the same questions, the related questions in the exam past papers. This is also ECZ, so which will be good for us. Okay, so in this one, it's asking us to find the difference in latitude between point C and B. So where is point C? Point C is right there. It's lying on, C is lying on 70 degrees south. You can see that it's lying on 70 degrees south. And we can see that B is right there, and it's lying on 50 degrees north. Okay, so the fact that we've discovered that they are heading in different directions, what do we need to do? We basically need to add them. So 70 plus 50, we are going to get 120 degrees. That will be the difference between the 2 points C and B. Let's look at the second example. Before we solve this together, try to pause the video and try to calculate for yourself. And after that, try to replay or resume the video and see if you get the same solutions. If you want, try to reverse the video and try to understand the concept, then redo it again. All right, let's get into that. The question is saying, calculate the difference in latitude between W and Y. So Y is right here. So Y is lying on latitude what? So y is lying on 30 degrees south. Okay, and let's look at w, which is right here. W is on 80 degrees north. All right, so let's see how we can get the solution. So you can see that even this one, the two latitudes where point W and point Y are lying on are heading in opposite directions. That simply means that we can add the degrees for us to find the difference. So we'll say 80 plus 30 degrees, which is going to give us 110 degrees difference. Okay, let's look at longitudes. How do we calculate the differences in longitude? The concept is basically the same. When you are calculating the difference in longitudes, and you discover that the two longitudes you are calculating are heading in the same direction, well, you just have to subtract them. And if the two longitudes are heading in opposite directions, well, you just have to add the degrees, and then you'll get the differences. Okay, so let's look at the first example. The first example has lines of longitudes. We can see that this line here is 0 degrees, meaning that is our Greenwich meridian. On the right side, we have longitudes heading the east, and on the left side, we have longitudes heading on the west. The first question is find the difference in longitude between the points A and W. So first of all, let's identify where A is. A is right there at 15 degrees east, and W is right there at 15 degrees west. So we can see the directions are opposite, east, west. So meaning to find the difference, we're just going to say 15 plus 15, and then we'll get 30 degrees. That will be the difference. Okay, let's look at how we can find question 2. So question 2 is asking us to find the difference in longitudes between points A and C. So point A is right there at 15 degrees, and point C is right there at 75 degrees. So because I can see that they are heading in the same direction, all I have to do is subtract them. So I'll basically say 75 degrees minus 15 degrees. That will give us 60 degrees difference. Okay, so let's look at practical examples from the exam. Okay, so the first example here is saying calculate the difference in longitude between towns A and B. So where's town A? Town A is right there. Now in this case, we're no longer looking at latitudes, so we are looking at longitudes. So point A is on which longitude? 75. Okay, 75 degrees west. And point B is lying on 30 degrees east. And you can see that the two points or towns are lying on the same latitude, 50 degrees north, but different longitudes. So because they're heading in different directions, all we have to do is simply add the two. So we are going to have 75 plus 30 degrees. Okay, so what is 75 plus 30 degrees? 75 plus 30 degrees, that is going to give us 105 degrees. Okay, let's go to the last example. Okay, so find the difference in longitude between points Y and Z. So first of all, we have to do the same thing, identify the longitudes on which they are lying on. So Y is right here. It's lying on longitude 15 degrees. So Y is at 15 degrees west. Okay, let's look at Z. So Z is right here on which longitude? 105. So Z is on longitude 105 degrees. Just write that properly. 105 degrees east. So according to the directions, we have west, east. So what does that tell you? It simply tells you that we need to add the two degrees. So what is 105 plus 15 degrees? That is going to give us 120 degrees difference. Okay, I hope you've understood how to calculate the differences in latitudes and longitudes. So in conclusion, I would say, okay, let me just write it here. In conclusion, I would say when you're calculating the differences in degrees between latitudes and longitudes, here is what you have to put in mind. When you have latitudes heading in the same direction, north, north, this should remind you to subtract them. If it is north, south, this should remind you to add. And when you are dealing with longitudes, when you see east, east, this should remind you to subtract. And if it is east, west, this should remind you to add. That will always help you to calculate the differences in latitudes and longitudes. Hopefully the video was helpful, and I would like to hear your comments about it. Feel free to ask questions. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day, everyone.